Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and I'm taking care of business. Joining me today is Kevin Lacey, who is Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Kevin, you put out a column, I guess, about the Taxpayers Federation position regarding the Calgary Flames arena deal. You seem to think that it's a good it's a good thing that this thing isn't going through. Maybe can you explain your position on that, or the Federation's position on that?
Sure. Well, I guess now we've had a little bit of time for this all to sink in, and I'm sure a lot of people will remember, around Christmas, we're all getting ready, wrapping the presents, getting ready with the turkey. And here we have a bombshell land in Calgary. For those, for those outside the city, wouldn't maybe not have even followed it that closely, but this arena deal, which took years to negotiate, collapsed. And there's lots of blame to go around, certainly with regards to the Flames, but also with regards to the city, that the way that they managed it. But I think when you look on its entirety about what has gone on here, this is probably good for the taxpayers of the city, because we're no longer going to be on the hook for this big amount of money that we know wasn't going to make very much money as the years went on into the future.
Well, let's talk about a couple of specifics. First of all, a lot of people consider the fact that it's several $100 million, the end cost of this thing. However, there's already been a lot of dough spent on that, several $1 million, right?
Yeah, there's been about 23 million. Calgary taxpayers were on the hook for a little over 11.
Okay. What is it about this that you don't like? Some people think, this will be an investment into the future, et cetera. Why do you not, consider that and the possibility as a positive thing for this?
Well, I guess there's two reasons. First is a matter of principle. That the Calgary Flames are a business like any other business. Anyone listening to this program, there's really no difference between that and other businesses. So, for example, would we go out and build a store for Walmart? Well, of course we wouldn't. I mean, that wouldn't be something that that we would deem as a public good, and that's essentially what's happening here. But the second reason, I think, is when we start to drill down into the agreement itself, and you see exactly just how sweet a deal it is for the Flames and how much trouble it could be for taxpayers into the future. So, for example, the first part is that much of the stadium was supposed to be built on a ticket tax. So every time somebody attended the game, they would pay the tax, and that would go against the city's contribution. But given what we've gone through with COVID and NHL attendances, that is no longer a guarantee like it was in years past. The second is a more structural problem with the agreement, which is the city would still own the building. And that would mean that the Flames would pay all the maintenance costs. And a lot of proponents, particularly in city council, pointed to this as a way to protect taxpayers. But what we've seen already is that in the demise of the agreement, that there was a dispute between the city and the Flames about right-of-way and about some expenditures of money. If we can't get the specifics of this deal ironed out today, this agreement was going to go on for 35 years. How do we ever expect that we're not going to have similar problems with over the next 35 years? So it's really those two reasons that we have a problem with this, and I think a good reason why this deal deserved more examination.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second, please, Kevin, but a lot of the proponents of the arena will talk and say that it's an investment into that area of the city. It's called, I guess, the Rivers or whatever, but it's the old Victoria Park neighborhood.
Yeah,
everybody knew, which is really an urban wasteland down there. It's just parking lots, right? And the argument here would be an event center like this would push and spark further development down there, both residential and commercial. No concerns there, if I'm your part that.
Well, look, I think there's some good noble reasons why you'd want to go ahead with the project, and you mentioned it. I mean, anybody who has Google can go down and survey the area around the Saddle Dome and the area where the new arena is going to be, because you're exactly right. It's concrete and highways. And then you look at the designs of the building, it looks cool and there's lots of stuff around and it can help create that foot traffic. I think a lot of laudable goals there. I think, though, the issue I have is, would it achieve that? So when the agreement came to City Council, there was only about 10 days of debate before they eventually passed this. There was very little public consultation. And there were a lot of people had a lot of problems with it. Mayor Nenshi at the time of the debate said that he received some of the most mail over the shortest period of time on this very agreement. But when the city took a look at what is going to be the impact, what's the economic benefit of this going to be, the stadium is only projected to be a negative 0.6%. And it was only after you included the indirect investment that you got to a positive of about 1.4%. That's a pretty low return on your public investment of any project. And when you consider that we had to renegotiate in the summer because the cost started to increase because of COVID and some of the supply chain issues, many of which you've discussed on your channel, when you include that extra money in, what happens to that 1.4%? It gets dragged down even further. So while I see the goal as laudable, and I think that a lot of the ambitions behind it may have been that people had good intentions, that when you actually break out the agreement, were we going to achieve that? I think that question has not been settled. And I think given what the city's own numbers are, I'm not sure we would have got there.
I want to ask you, Kevin, about the mood of taxpayers these days, right? I think we're getting dinged left, right, and center from every direction, right? I personally, I don't know, but I don't think that the taxpayers are willing to spend more taxpayers' money on something else, whether or not it's a Flames arena deal or anything else. Is that the sentiment you're getting from the general public?
Yeah, I think that government has eroded our trust in their ability to manage these big projects. I think the way this fell apart actually also contributes to this. I mean, the city of Calgary, a few days before this fell apart, said that we're going to have a new climate change policy. We're going to run all of our new construction through this climate change examination. Yeah. And one of the things that killed it was that the demand that the city include climate change initiatives within the building, which would have cost a lot more money. And I think when you see this kind of bureaucratic back and forth with a private business, I think a lot of people are watching this and going like, can we actually run and manage this? Yeah. And government's proving that it can't. And I think before we can do these major investments again and have we need to, first of all, have a debate, be able to go back and forth and have a discussion. But I also think that it's key on public officials to regain our trust in order to be able to propose these programs, which are aspirational. And I don't know that a lot of people believe that this is what's going to happen.
You know what runs through my head, Kevin, and I've talked to a lot of friends about this over the last couple of years, is that the whole Flames arena, deal, not so much a deal, but the aspiration to have a new arena, and tied in with that was, if you go back in time, there was the McMahon Stadium.
Yeah.
Let's remember that, the Flames own both organizations, right? So there was to tie everything together, right? And then there was also talk about an athletic park, et cetera, all that type of stuff. But my point has always been that why did we wait so long when the economy went in the tank, to talk about these big ticket item expenditures when this should have been talked about, in 2013 and before that, when the money was flowing here and the multi-millionaire, perhaps billionaire owners of the Flames organization could have easily taken care of this.
Well, that's a great point. And, the Flames are a big company. Like, according to Forbes, the Flames are worth about $680 million. Yeah. The team sold back in 1980 for about 16 million. So maybe Mario, you and I should have got in on that deal way back when, because it turned out to be pretty good for the owners.
Yeah.
But you make a really good point, is that we seem to start pushing when we have so little. And I think that when the city has to divide its attention to so many different issues across it, it's why is this arena now when we're also dealing with all these other issues in urban municipalities across Canada, like homelessness and things like that also require our attention. So yeah, I think the timing was off here, and maybe if we can recalibrate, it'll bring forth a different discussion on how we can better do the project.
One final thing, Kevin. So where are we at with this, and as far as you know, and where we're going?
So the decision was made in January that that City Council is going to ask their staff to go out and examine what's going on with the stadium, what can be done, and there's going to be another City Council meeting in March, which is going to make a decision on how they go forward. Do they find new partners? Do they not? And it's something that certainly from our perspective, we're going to be watching pretty closely.
All right, super. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Kevin Lacey, Alberta Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I'm Mario Toneguzzi. This has been Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.